February 25th, I believe. So the purpose of this particular conversation is that right?
24th.
24th, okay. So today is February 24th, and we are here to talk about Phenotype February's adult dermatomyositis. The purpose of this call is to try to get that phenotype to completion. Completion, as defined in Phenotype February, is to be able to submit and a developed and evaluated cohort definition for peer review, and for the peer reviews to make some sort of a recommendation, which could be accept or reject. And if it's accepted, it'll go into the OHDSI Phenotype library. So the purpose of this particular meeting is to help Dr. McCauley and his team to get to that stage of submit to the peer reviewer. So in terms of the status, the team has worked on several definitions to model the idea of dermatomyositis. One of them is in a better position than the other, which was originally labeled the sensitive definition. The output is on data.odyssey.org/, there's a URL for it on the forums. Is that a correct summary?
Yes, it is. I can provide kind of a further update if helpful as well.
Absolutely.
So leaving off where the thread stopped, we have been iterating the cohort definitions based on feedback from others and just kind of through our interaction with other forums throughout this month. And we have updated both the sensitive and specific cohort definitions, which are now on the Atlas Demo Odyssey site. Okay. And I can provide the numbers if that's helpful in the chat.
Yes.
But to your point, Gautam, I think it makes sense if the goal is to have a finished product that at least someone can peer evaluate, like just moving forward with the sensitive one, given we only have 4 days of the month here, probably is reasonable. With plans to take a deeper dive into the specific definition later on. We're not stopping on the 28th. We're definitely moving forward, but I understand the theme of the month. So I'll give you those IDs. Most of our issues at the moment, and Will can chime in, have been, I believe, institution specific. We've encountered a lot of Hopkins obstacles with versions of R and really just running cohort diagnostics. And we are, as of 4 hours ago, just got some important permissions for Will to actually start the process of trying to finally execute cohort diagnostics with these latest cohort definitions.
That's great. That's great. Will, have you used your new power to execute cohort diagnostics?
So first of all, I'll caveat this. I am a Python developer, and this is my first trance into R. So this is likely taking me a lot longer than someone more experienced would. So I now have permissions to read write the results in temp schemas within our CDM, which was the limiter before. However, now I'm still slogging through a couple of other issues. The big one is our internal environment. Our server does not play well with the Java OBDC driver. So I'm in the process of rewriting the database connector method or class. I'm not sure what the relevant R terminology is, to use ODBC instead, which is what we have the ability to go through because we need the free TDS 8.0 driver offered by it. So I'm in the process of trying to override those libraries so that we can get it up and running. Again, that's just more institution specific stuff that we're having to slog through.
Okay. Okay.
We have if I may add just briefly, we do know that we're going to have the ability of de-identifying our OMOP projection. So we're going to be able to compare our gold standard known myositis cohort with that information derived from Cohort Diagnostics, PheValuator, et cetera. So we'll be able to kind of really understand how well these definitions are performing. It just may not be by February 28th.
Yep, completely understood. Asa, you wanted to say something?
No, I said like that the February 28th is actually because what you're doing, especially comparing what you're gonna get compared to a gold standard. That's extra step, which is great learning for all of us, because it's really occasionally that we get multiple sources of data to compare a rule-based definition like this with like a different approach, and like having that go, like the truth somewhere is we don't have that, because all our data is de-identified and there's no registries, there's nothing like that. So all what we can rely on is those assessments we make. So that's an extra step that you guys are going to make, which will help us all understand like how bad can it get, at least in this particular, of course we can't generalize, but in this particular disease and this particular population and this particular system. But I think, yeah, but I do think like just to keep the conversation going and to make sure that we're collaborating is if we take those definitions that you currently have and we just assess them across our databases, that would help us understand what we observe in a claims data system like ours, or most of ours, or a population EHR like what we have from Optum in our case. I think that will like give you something that you wouldn't do on your own, just like as you would give us something that we don't be able to do it on our own. And I think that will complete the picture. And since we have those resources and ability to do this month, if you are satisfied with those definitions in terms of the logic and the concepts, we can go and do the evaluation. You already did it on your database and made some observations, so we can do it on the other databases we have.
So
if that's
actually,
fine.
Yeah, so actually, so the publicly available Cohort Diagnostics output is based on the data sources that you and I have access to, that was executed and made available. Based on the output, it sounds like the team has iterated on the Cohort definition, and now we need to update those. The iteration was done on the iteration was done on an atlas, the demo atlas. So we need to first understand what the difference is, what the iteration is, and then import those changes into the and execute those on the data sources we have access to. Before we go to there, I just want to close the loop with Bill. Will, do you need any help from anybody else in the community to complete the tasks? Now that you have the permissions, but you have a database connect related issues, would you like some help?
I think most of this is going to be institutional quirk specific, and we do have someone on our team who's able to work with those. One of our IT director, actually the person in charge of our institutional OMOP projection, should be able to get us through this. Now, after we can work through those institutional specific ones, if I have any additional help that's more general related to the package itself, then I can certainly reach out again.
Great. Again, congratulations on the progress you've made.
I guarantee you that will be. I guarantee you.
So Will, you've been able to connect. You have an OMOP instance, and you can use Atlas against it, I'm guessing?
Yes, so we can use Atlas against it. However, when we're trying to run study packages in our Cohort Diagnostics, that's where we're having issues. And it seems that boils down to some peculiarity with our SQL server that prevents us from using the JavaScript library. Or sorry, the Java database library.
Okay.
So I'm going to share my screen. I just pulled up based on your chat messages, I've just pulled up the specifications. Okay. All right. So this URL, data.odyssey.org, Phenotype Phebruary 2023, P7 dermatomyositis, I think. Just the dermatomyositis, because we had two versions of it, which was okay, no, this is it. So this was the original set of definitions that we worked on. The main focus definition is this one right now. So our narrow goal right now is to work the dermatomyositis sensitive definition to completion for Phenotype February 2023. We'll continue to collaborate on the rest of the phenotypes definitions in the subsequent month. So for this particular call, let's try to get this one and get an agreement on what it takes to be done, so that Asia Golazar, the peer reviewer, has everything for her review. Okay.
Gautam, I think it sounded like the specific 2 is a legit cohort that they are interested in.
Yes.
Yeah, what I found is that I'm not sure whether you got it in Cohort Diagnostics, you get any counts for it? Because I generated the initial, that 303, and I got no counts.
So yeah, there are 2 flavors of the specific definition when we originally worked on. One was the definition. So there was an initial version. The initial version had a bug in it, and also it was reliant on lab result data.
Yeah.
Lab result data of a very rare, of a rarely performed antibody test. And then we modified it to have split into 2. The first one, this is called specific 2, has the test checks for the performance of the test only. The next one checks for the performance of the test and the results.
Right.
And I think that was the logic.
Yeah, so in 2 databases, you were able to get 2, and that's about it.
That's right. So here is a measurement type of positive integer. Yeah. So we're now focusing. So that's why we. Okay. So we have the sense. So this was the original sensitive definition, but you have worked on that and made changes to it.
Minor, yes.
And the changes. This was the original one. This is
Really with the index date. It's a little bit modeled after, Joel, your lupus phenotype.
Okay. 30 days after on 365. Yeah.
I see. This before.
We also re-reviewed all the options for descendants and exclusions, and those are largely unchanged.
Okay. So should we?
But you're seeing the concept. Did the concept set change at all?
No.
Okay.
So it seems it's like the same idea. You just played a little bit with the earliest event and how you're capturing that index.
Correct.
Makes sense.
Not a seismic change from the original sensitive one.
Okay, so I'll import this one, and I will put this. I'll have it executed. Shouldn't take a long time to get the results out, but sounds like we don't expect a major change in the results. So it's probably going to look exactly similar to this cohort for which we have an output for. Now in the forum post, you have reviewed it, and in the demographics, you said it's in expected lines. There could be possible specificity errors because there are some people who are less than 18. Or it could be true cases. Okay. And then so
But one thing I did find was there's code for childhood dermatomyositis.
Yes.
I found that present in adults. Does that make any sense at all?
It does.
I found it in a 54-year-old.
Yeah, so it does if they had onset as a child, and then they would kind of carry that juvenile or childhood dermatomyositis throughout their life.
Okay.
As odd as that may seem.
Yeah, I mean, 54 years old, it's like 30, yeah, I guess.
And here the cohort is people with dermatomyositis, right? So once you have it for a lifetime.
Correct.
At least that's how it's modeled. Yeah. So it's
That makes sense. Is
Yeah,
infantile dermatomyositis a different disease compared to adult dermatomyositis, or is it the same disease? Or
Interesting
juvenile?
question. Short answer
It
is
depends.
we say different. Let's just assume they're different.
Okay.
There are definitely some differences phenotypically, and the research questions we would ask would change depending on the population that we study.
Okay.
Yeah, so then yeah.
So,
Okay.
so are you here interested in capturing the adult version if we consider them two different versions?
Correct. That's the intention.
Yeah, I don't think they actually call it adult. They just call it dermatomyositis. There's a childhood dermatomyositis, which is a child of dermatomyositis.
Yeah, but it
Oddly
sounds like
enough.
that. Gautam, what is the index event miscast? Yeah, breakdown. Do we have granularity, or everybody's loaded on that unspecified code? Yeah.
I mean, if the group believes it's better, we could put in something like an inclusion criteria of greater than 18.
Hold on. Let me ask you. Hold on. Let me just continue that train of thought. If you consider them two different diseases, and in this case your phenotype is more interested in the adult, if I ask you in a population like yours, if you would split the conditions into adult and infant or kids, is the majority are likely to be adults or kids or split? Where is the weights? Where
The
is
the majority will be adult.
Okay.
Okay. So I think Gautam, there's nothing we can do because the data is loaded on the unspecific, which is the dermatomyositis. Regardless, like the code doesn't tell you if it's adult or kid, but if the majority are adults by nature, then we keep it as is. You could remove that few cases of the particular specific juvenile, the kids ones, but I don't think that's going to affect much.
Yeah. So
And
the way I think the way to ask the question is, if a person with juvenile dermatomyositis continues to become an adult and is now a 50-plus-year-old person with juvenile dermatomyositis diagnosis, can that person be considered not to have adult dermatomyositis?
Yeah, it's a good question.
And they can be considered not to have adult dermatomyositis?
Well, are they
Yeah,
different? Are they not the people you're looking for?
exactly. Is that a case or not case?
Because I saw a 54-year-old with a load of childhood dermatomyositis codes, and it might be those could be edge cases. They could be very rare.
Yeah. We do not care about those people.
Okay, that's all we need to know. So
not that you want not the thing you want to hear from a doctor, but
yeah. So I think what he's saying is like it's not a source of specificity errors. They're not.
It is. It is. He doesn't want to include those in the cohort. That's not of interest to them.
Okay, then we have to modify the definition. Then the one way of improving this definition is copy this definition.
No. I mean, because he specifically didn't do all children, and it's not including. Oh, but you're saying does not have. Well, that's the other question for Chris. If they have both dermatomyositis and childhood dermatomyositis, do you want to include them?
No, they should be excluded.
Okay. Anybody with a code for childhood dermatomyositis should be excluded. Okay.
So,
but just keep in mind, doing this does not guarantee that everybody you have is an adult version of the disease, because the use of those specific codes are very very limited. As you see, most of the people are actually coming on that unspecified general code.
Right.
But it's just that when we know they are juvenile, we're removing them. That's all what we're doing. So we're trying to clean it up, but that doesn't mean it's going to do much. We already know it's not going to do much because we can see that the data is not granular.
This is the juvenile dermatomyositis. This one. It's 3.
No, it's I think it's childhood dermatomyositis.
Both. We would ideally exclude both if.
Right.
They probably map to each other.
I think they were both SNOMED codes, weren't they?
Yeah, I'm thinking one is a child of another.
Could be.
I'm speculating. I don't know, but we can.
Wait, go back to that, Gotham. I think you had the dates wrong, the way Chris expressed it.
Yeah, I'll do that just a second. I just want to make sure. I'm just doing this for temporarily. Just want to make sure I don't get juvenile. Okay, so juvenile childhood dermatitis is the parent of juvenile. That's good. So we can take this one down. What were you saying, Joel?
Yeah, he wants it not just 0 days after, all days after. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll do this. All right, so this logic is just a minor modifications because we don't want persons with juvenile dermatomyositis who are now currently adults. Okay.
Then the other
Now you
question
can
is, do you want to
also-
set this? Do you want to set the first occurrence to be after 18?
Yes.
And then change the name from dermatomyositis sensitive to adult dermatomyositis sensitive. I'm just asking.
That would make sense to me.
So any case that if you know nothing about the case other than that they have the diagnosis but also less than 18, is that enough for you to say that this is a false case or this is probably a childhood case?
If it was entered under the age of 18, yes.
Okay, then that logic makes sense. And now when you look at your incidence rate, you're not going to see anybody in that young age group by design.
Got it.
I'm just splitting the rules into attrition rules, so you can actually see how many people we lose based on.
Why did you add first times in person's history?
Because we don't want them. If a person is diagnosed with dermatomyositis at the age of 17, they are not in. The only persons who are in are persons who are diagnosed with dermatomyositis as an adult.
Yeah, you don't need to do first times in one history because time doesn't flow backwards.
If there's
So if you
Earliest event, because you already have earliest events in there. What I found the danger with the first time in patient's history is that it includes
outside observation period. But hold on, Gautam, you don't need first times in one history. The reason why, if you had, yeah, but I'm explaining why. If you got a case, even if it wasn't the earliest event, if you got somebody with at any time having the code while they are less than 18, I'm hearing from Chris here that is enough case, even if it wasn't the first time they had it in their life, because time doesn't go backwards.
Yeah.
So at the moment they're less than 18 and they have the code, we disqualify them, even if that was the second or the third time they had the code. Because if it's the second or the third time they had the code, if anything, they were younger at the first time they had the code, and we disqualify them.
Okay, so we got it. So this
You
it's still not, we made some minor changes to the definition. It's still consistent with what the original definition was, and it's still taking some time to load. I was hoping it would be there already.
We can rerun it, Gautam, and do evaluation fresh.
We can. But what I wanted to see was whether we can see the juvenile dermatomyositis in the characterization report.
While this is running, you mind if I just do a quick look at the PheValuator results?
Yes, please share your screen.
I'm gonna predict that it has a high specificity, low sensitivity. Because
What was your expect, Joel? What was the logic of your expect?
I think it was 2 times for, I don't know if I think it was just 2 times in a short period of time.
Okay, so basically people who had 2 consecutive visits for dermatomyositis in a short time window is considered as very
And
specific.
I don't think let me, if I can check, but I may have put in glucocorticoids. Is that a standard first treatment, glucocorticoids for this one, or immunosuppressants?
Glucocorticoids is the more sensitive.
So if somebody has 2, so basically the question is, would you agree with this premise that Joel is running PheValuator on? His premise is persons with 2 consecutive diagnoses of dermatomyositis, along with the treatment of glucocorticoids,
Or
is.
let me just see if, let me bring up the definition. Let's see if I did it, which way I did it, because I wasn't sure whether yeah. So what I did was do either, condition code of the condition occurrence of dermatomyositis, and either on that same day a drug exposure or immunosuppressant, or within a short period of time a second code within 14 days of the first code.
So you did immunosuppressants. Okay.
which is more specific, which in this case, what you would want. You don't want a more sensitive treatment. You want a more specific treatment. We're trying to build a logic for a case that we believe truly have the disease, with less suspicious than.
Yeah, and the thinking is if they had the code for it, and they had a drug prescribed on that same day, that's pretty good indication that the clinician is treating them for it.
And how many people met your criteria, Joel? Just high level, do you know?
I think Chris has a question.
No, I was just trying to keep up with you guys. You're very fluid, in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, it probably wasn't very high, because if you look at here, these are my PheValuator results. I did 2 different tests here. This is just a simple 1 code that I use to do a quick prevalence, and this is your 2 code. And one of the things you see is that whereas my single code has higher sensitivity than your double code has higher positive predictive value than my single code, which all makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you see my count of true, you see the counts are very small in both cases. We're only
Which
talking.
one had? Right.
Interesting thing here, and this is something I'm not sure I've ever seen before. The estimated prevalence across our databases, which is a wide range of databases, is this generally a younger person? You know what? I'm not. Or all I was going to say was that the prevalence is very similar.
I saw this in another. Yeah, it's because it's rare. It's rare and similar. Yeah.
I guess, but normally, I mean, would you have thought that? I mean, because we're comparing Medicare here. Medicare is the highest, and Medicare is the oldest, and CCAE is the youngest, but it's relatively small differences.
2.0 or 2.8.
So those are percents. So it would be this would be 1 in 18 out of 100,000, or 2 out of 10,000.
Okay,
so 100,000,
yeah,
10,000. Yeah.
So let's. Can you orient Doctor, are you familiar with PheValuator, Dr. McCauley, and are you familiar with? Have you seen a report like this before?
Crudely.
No. Okay, so Joel, can you do an orientation if you don't mind?
Yeah. So what this is showing is the estimate for sensitivity, positive predictive value, specificity, and negative predictive value with 95% confidence intervals for the two different cohorts of interest. In this case, the prevalence cohort, which I use as a single code, and the sensitive cohort, which you came up with which was two codes. And from that, so the way this works is that I test this against a group of approximately 2 million people. If you can add up all these, so it was like 1.9 million people total that it was tested against. And this gives an estimate of the true positives, false positives, true negatives, false negatives. What we see is that the numbers, like I said, the numbers are pretty small. But in this case, we see in the single code, we see maybe about an average of 50% positive predictive value. We can look at here and see it's about 51% here, versus for your definition, it's about 74% positive predictive value. Sensitivity here is about 80%, and sensitivity for yours is about 70%.
Got it. Can I ask a silly question?
Probably not silly. Go ahead.
So in column J, the true positive count, that's not a rate, right? That's just the number of absolute patients.
Out of 2 million, out of 1.9 million, yeah. How many people that we added up to basically true positives, yeah.
So I'm just trying to reconcile that number with what I recall in seeing on the prior output that Gotham showed me, where I was getting like thousands of dermatomyositis patients. Is that because you're only constraining this to the 2 million denominator?
Yeah. So
Okay.
He's looking at CCAE, for instance, which would have, I don't know, 80 million people in it, 100 million people in it, or something like that in the whole data set. And I'm looking at a subset of about 2 million.
Understood. Okay. And the real value of this is that you're now able to kind of quantify your bias.
Correct.
In each cohort definition. Okay.
Yeah. And this is what we'd like to test against, that our positive predictive value for your definition, we estimated PheValuator estimated to be about 74%. So I'm curious
Sorry, good.
I'd be curious to hear what it's when you actually run your code and test it against your gold standard. Be interesting to see what you get from that.
Does the not to ask too much, but does the program automatically tell you what you could do to increase or decrease these numbers?
Yeah, so it depends, so then when we get into like sort of phenotyping science, and then you sort of look at fit for function for the definition, so that you could make your definition more specific and increase your positive predictive value if the study plan if the study that you were going to run, you wanted to be doggone sure that those people had dermatomyositis. So you'd want to optimize specificity, positive predictive value. If you wanted to, if it was like a safety study and you didn't want to miss people with possible dermatomyositis as a adverse event from some drug or something, then you might want to use a more sensitive approach.
Right.
But I think
in this case, nothing really dramatic came up. Sometimes I'll see I'll look at the model that comes out of this, the logistic regression model that comes out of it, and it might overtly suggest there'll be some code in there, and then it's like, oh, wait a second, maybe we should have included that code or something like that. But I didn't see that in any of this.
But it is interesting for something that is rare and specific to find that, like in some databases, you have almost 57%. So that means 43% of the people you detected are false. Like,
Yeah, I bet you that's up to the HR. Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
interesting for something that is rare and very specific, and the cohort is requiring 2 codes.
Yeah.
What was your sensitive cohort, Joel? Did you?
The prevalence cohort, just single code.
Yes. Okay.
But am I correct in that to derive or to run PheValuator, you identify both a very sensitive and very specific cohort definition, correct?
Well, you actually don't. You use the what I call the X spec, the very sensitive one, and that's what I use to train the model. So it's the very I'm sorry, I don't know if I said sensitive or specific, but the very specific one, the X spec, is used to train the model, and that the idea is to get people who you have a very high probability of thinking have the disease of interest. In this case, either having 2 codes or having the code with an immunosuppressant given on the same day. It gives us, we have high likelihood that that person has the disease. And then we compare those to people that, in the prediction modeling, we compare those to people who had no codes. And that, so we have cases and non-cases, and we get a lasso logistic regression model from that.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, you're using our sensitive cohort definition as your X spec when really, wouldn't it make sense? I know we can't do it for various reasons, but wouldn't it make sense to use our specific definition for X spec?
Well, your specific definition gave us nothing.
Fair enough.
So this one, yeah. I mean, this is the sort of the method that you're calling it sensitive. I would call it, in our terminology, we tend to think that the 2 codes is the more specific version of it. I guess
that's why I'm surprised by those PPV values.
Yeah.
Hold on. If you think of the when you train the model, the people you excluded, basically the X sense, do you think if you made a better contrast, because the current contrast between the X spec and the X sense is only that second code?
No, it's the contrast in the model is between people with the 2 codes or the immunosuppressant and people who never had a code for it.
Yeah.
It's not comparing the X spec and the X sense. It's basically the population minus the X sense. You want to think of it that way.
Yeah, I know, but I'm thinking if we removed anybody with either having the higher level code, whatever the parent for this, would that
the myositis.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's not a whole lot of myositis itself wasn't real big compared to dermatomyositis, I don't think. But anyway, that is another way to do it, and we can test that. The thing that I saw when I looked through some of the false positives on this, particularly on this one, was people who I looked at their record, and they've had in their lifetime they generally had 1 code for dermatomyositis and no treatment for it or anything like that. So could have been a rule out diagnosis.
But he had 2. He asked for 2 in that cohort. He asked for 2 codes.
Yeah. Okay. No, actually, yeah. I didn't look at. That's true. I looked at. I only look at the false negatives and false positives for the single code. I didn't look at the false negatives and false positives. Once you start moving away from the single code, becomes a little more complicated. So when you look at a single code, the people who have low probability of having the disease of interest were the ones that had a single code plus basically nothing else, no treatment, no other comorbid conditions that were included in the model, that type of thing.
Did age pump up in your prediction model?
Yeah, it may have. I don't know. Why is this? Is this? I guess we get worse with age.
Yeah, it's more it's an adult. It's
Yeah, we
mostly
do see
adult,
that.
right?
In Medicare, we did see Medicaid, we did see a little higher rate. But it wasn't as high as a lot of some of these diseases go. I was a little surprised.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering, removing younger than 18 should improve the PPV.
Yeah, and when I ran PheValuator, I ran it only in people 18 and older.
Oh, you already did that.
Oh, so you could restrict the age. Okay, I mean, now we have an estimate of sensitivity, specificity, and PPV for the definition, the candidate definition. Of course, we have tweaked it a little bit, but I don't think it's going to move it by much other than improve a PPV maybe a little bit.
Right.
I do think, I mean, I do think going higher in the sensitive cohort might help a little bit, or might give us some different estimate. I'm really surprised, just because this is a very rare, specific condition. Looking at Cohort Diagnostics, people looked.
Yeah.
Well, here's the question for Chris. You know, I know nothing about dermatomyositis. What's your diagnostics for this when you're examining somebody? Is it purely?
It's a multitude of tests. So the diagnosis is challenging. So it's not, outlandish to think that patients have, one or even two diagnoses of dermatomyositis when they do not have the disease. The diagnostic evaluation can sometimes take several months and includes blood work, imaging, MRIs, EMGs, ultimately sometimes a muscle or skin biopsy. So the time it takes to coordinate all those tests can often be on the order of 3 to 6 months. And in the interim visits, like they might have a dermatomyositis, they might be being treated with prednisone to attenuate the symptoms that the patient's progressing with. So like most of rheumatology, it's a little bit of a black box and complicated.
Would you give somebody an immunological treatment when you have a very strong suspicion that they have dermatomyositis, but hold on to the actual label for 6 months?
In my note, I would, but I'd probably still enter some type of diagnosis of, myalgia, myositis, weakness, rash, etc.
Yeah.
From my interactions with other providers, they might just put dermatomyositis as the problem list and, presumed or, empiric diagnosis as they treat and figure out what's really going on.
Yeah, so the reason I bring that up is because to explain the sensitivity of 0.7, PheValuator may be seeing people with the immunological treatment and this the signs and symptoms of dermatomyositis.
Yeah.
And because it is seeing those two, but not the label of dermatomyositis, the code, your definition may not be picking it.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I mean, that's
Another way to potentially tease it, in the distant future would actually somewhat paradoxically be to eliminate the prednisone, because everyone kind of gets prednisone for everything. But if you require to get any other form of immune suppressant, that usually requires a certain level of diagnostic certainty that most providers would not pull the trigger on until they have more clarity on the diagnosis. So if you discounted people who just received things like prednisone, Medrol dose pack, et cetera, which is like 90% of patients who walk into a rheumatology office, and focused more on the other forms of immune suppressants these patients receive, that might also be another strategy.
That's so I'm looking at your concept set for the immunologicals and saying.
Let me just ask a provocative question while you're here. So one of the biases we get here is that we work with genius clinicians working at prestigious institutions. So you see, you go through your tests and you see dermatomyositis. Somebody working in less prestigious institution, is dermatomyositis their zebra, or are they thinking or is this something that they would diagnose?
They would. The community dermatologist, rheumatologist, neurologist would have no problem usually making this diagnosis. To be fair, you're exactly right. We definitely see a skewed population. There's all sorts of referral and selection bias in academic centers, but this is a diagnosis encountered in the community.
Okay.
So how
And
would they
and what? Just one last thing. So as far as the things that when you see dermatomyositis, what are the other 3, 4 conditions that you say you have to rule out?
Admittedly, by the time they get to me, that number is very small. But if you were the first person to touch this patient in the outpatient setting, you want to rule out other rheumatic diseases. Lupus is very high up there, rheumatoid arthritis, other forms of interstitial lung disease, as well as some things like, thyroid disorders, spinal disease, etc.
Bullous pemphigoid, is that? I mean, isn't this a blistering thing that you're?
There is a rash, but it's not blistering, so they're usually pretty distinguishable.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. So this is our primary goal is to get this to completion. So let's focus on get this to completion. So this is another data point that can be part of the phenotype submission for RCA Golazar. So we have PheValuator results, so we can share that. Do we? I don't think so, but just to reflect, Joel, given that we made this minor changes to the core definition, should we run PheValuator again or keep it as is? Would it change?
I can run the new definitions. Yeah, if are they? Just point me at them.
I'll point it to you. Okay, so we'll work on that. So
and if you have, okay, yeah. So your specific definition only worked in like 1-2 databases, and even then a small amount. It's probably not worth it doing that one.
I like the idea that Dr. Macaulay said, can we remove steroids from the immunosuppressants? Because steroids is pretty non-specific, and if you were really trying for a specific definition, you may want to remove steroids. Second component is what he said was the non-steroidal drugs that are part of this concept set are not going to be used without serious considerations.
Yeah, I'm thinking remove steroid, remove prednisone, and I think in the X-spec, remove the differential diagnosis, because I'm thinking of all these people who have very similar representation but don't have the code. They're gonna probably be mixed up. So maybe remove lupus and all these similar.
Can a person have dermatomyositis and lupus at the same time?
In general, no. I would be fine excluding lupus.
If a person, so if you want to be, for the purpose of predictive modeling purposes, if you want to have extremely high confidence in a person having dermatomyositis, if they have another disease at the same time,
or a few days later, even if you have a
What are those
dermatomyositis code and lupus 4 days later, do you think they probably changed the diagnosis?
I have enough doubt that I'd exclude it. Yeah.
Okay.
What are those diseases? Like,
yeah, that's if we can get a list of those.
Yeah, let me think about that. It is a little difficult because there are a lot of diseases that can coexist, but I wouldn't exclude based on. So like diabetes, thyroid disease can all co-occur. Right. But I also worry about diabetes being miscoded as dermatomyositis. We definitely see that when people enter DM into their EPIC diagnosis code. So I don't know if there's a way around that really, but it is what it is.
I've never thought about that source of error.
We saw the post, and I didn't realize it could be because of typing DM, but that's funny. But specifically from a rheumatological diseases that are similar in their presentation, that can get when present at the same time, would make you suspect that this person truly does not have dermatomyositis. So you said SLE, maybe there's only 4 conditions, just we need to just 4 conditions.
Yeah, and focus on the most common. You know how when people
Yeah.
show up in the doctor, the first thing they say, well, we're gonna first think of the, what is it, the most
What do you want to rule
common.
out?
Yeah, the rule out, which you say by the time they reach you, they have already ruled out these things. But what are those things? So we remove them from the model, so the model doesn't get confused.
Yeah,
That's what he needs to think about.
yeah. It might be best if I just email you offline rather than
Yeah.
take up time. But
Yeah.
I'm on that. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. So Azza, in terms of the post structure, so that to transfer to Asia, what are the things do we need?
So I always don't like to see if we evaluate the results, then go to Cohort Diagnostics,
Yeah.
because I'm now very influenced by that PPV. But I will try not to think about it. I think Gautam, you just need to run the Cohort Diagnostic, run on the cohort we have currently, and we're just gonna go over it the same way we already did, and the same way Dr. McCauley did on their databases, on the internal database they had. I'll just go over the post and share it with you before we post it, and then we can either do it by email or we can have another call, just go quickly over it.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. So I got the action on the sensitive and the specific. You said you had worked on it a little bit, right? Anything that we need
Can
to
we
know?
look at it? Did it change? Maybe it changed in a way that will generate numbers right now.
The main thing was trying to break apart the requirement for a positive test and just focus on the fact that the test was ordered in the first place.
Okay.
So Joel, you might want to take this and see if that actually now generate numbers and see if that can help you in the expect, because I do think the test might be a better way of differentiating the case.
Yeah. So this test is very specific.
Well, no, you're saying the presence of a case.
The presence of a test, not
The presence of a test. So the presence of a test is one thing. Test can be negative, versus giving an immunosuppressant, which it says the doctor thinks you have it and is treating you for it.
I think the proposal is you have the diagnosis, you have the immunosuppressant, and you have a test.
Oh, and you have a test. Okay.
Yeah, by the time you do that, then you have nobody left.
There is actually. So if you look at this, and if you look at this code definition, which is on the shiny is giving numbers.
Yeah.
Can we look at the?
Sorry,
Yeah,
good.
sorry.
Yeah, so the 168 and CCA, it's it's in my mind, we don't have to go nuts on the specific two codes in a short period of time, or a code plus treatment is
Good enough.
what I've seen is good enough. You don't really improve it the other way around, and you lose more in the modeling by having fewer subjects for XSpec than you do by having a little less specific.
Got it. Okay. You're the expert. Yeah.
Dr. McCauley, you were saying something.
I think I was just agreeing with Joel that it's probably sufficient from a specific standpoint to have 2 diagnosis codes and a non-prednisone immunosuppressive. There was an ulterior motive of including the antibody testing because we very much, at least in some databases that have that granularity, want to know what the antibody is. And speaking on behalf of the entire myositis world, that's kind of hugely important to us, but it may not be important for the purposes of a specific cohort definition.
So it's currently or, not and. It's 2 diagnoses in 30 days or 14 days, or
Yes.
The test or the treatment.
So I think the problem that we are trying to solve here, one of the problems that we're trying to solve here is most of the data sources that is available for research to the research community does not have results for antibody testing. So now if we can through this work find that the persons that were identified using a definition that does not have antibody results is comparable to another definition in a very specialized data set that has the antibody results, then it opens up the field of dermatomyositis research for use of these general purpose data sources.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing for to advance the science on this particular rare disease. And if you can somehow show that the performances of the operating characteristics of the definitions are similar, then.
So, Gautam, can you go over the definition they finalized for the specific definition? Forget about what's in the past. Can we just look at it?
Yeah, so the definition for the specific.
No. The one, not the one in Shiny, but the one in cohort demo, Atlas demo.
Okay, so this is the one. So the entry event criteria is the diagnosis of dermatomyositis. There are 3 inclusion rules. The first inclusion rule is exposure to a drug which is considered an immunosuppressant. Notice this one has prednisone in it, but it also has several ingredients that are considered immunomodulators. Then there is the requirement of an antibody test. And then there is the requirement of the second diagnosis.
The second one is redundant, right? You have either the test or the test with the results.
Yeah, so this one, this particular version here, because it's at least one, right? So persons can satisfy this, or participants can satisfy that, and they're pretty similar except for some temporal differences. Here is the presence of a test.
No, I think it makes sense. No, I understand. So you either have a test on that same day, 1 year up to that day, or you have positive results anytime within a year.
Yeah.
Is that right? The measurement type is positive?
No, it's not. It should be measurement value, so it's a bug. So it has to be value as a concept.
Maybe that's where you're getting zeros.
Oh, maybe. Oh, that's a good point. So maybe it's just a bug in the definition. There is actually results in the data source. So here we need. Okay, let's try that out. I mean, we can test that. Okay, so let me experiment with that. So what the premise here is, there is a bug in this code definition. The bug is it's using the wrong filter. Here it says measurement type. It should be value as concept, and that value of concept could be value of concept, or it could be the actual value itself, value as number. And then greater than or equal to is for these tests. Is it a positive, negative, or is it a number with a titration value? And the titer value has to be above a certain threshold.
Yeah, it can unfortunately be both. Some are just reported back positive, negative. Other come with a continuous integer where there's a threshold for positivity.
So what I'll do is I'll modify this, and I will use that as part of the next execution. What I'll do is I'll make this into multiple rules, and I'll allow for a person to enter if they have an antibody test with which is reported as positive, or I will allow for an antibody test where the value is greater than 1, or should I say value greater than 0. Greater than 0. So if it's value greater than 0, then it is more than 0, obviously, for certain antibodies, and if a person can normal people have antibodies?
Yeah.
Okay, so there has to be a low value, so everybody can have antibody that is greater than 0, but only if they are above a certain range are they considered positive.
Correct, and it depends on the specific test ordered.
So the way we can model that is something called as low range, high range ratio. So if the lab reports so in OMAP CDM in the measurement table, we can capture the lab reported range. So there's a low range and a high range, and then the actual value. So if somebody has a value that is above the high range, they can get a flag saying positive. If it is within the range, they would be considered to not get the flag of positive. Now, obviously, there are multiple labs here, and each one of those may have a different range, and based on what reagent they used and what testing device they used, the range for the same test may be different based on different labs. So to overcome that problem, we have here called range high ratio. And if you say it is 1.1, that means the actual lab value returned is is greater than or equal to 1.1 times the reference high. I'll use that as another way. I don't know if we'll get any hits, but we'll try.
Sounds good.
Okay. So things that we've done today, we have modified the definition a little bit, minor modifications. We talked about the sensitive definitions a lot. We've talked a little bit of the specific definition. We have looked at PheValuator results. We'll update the forum post with the PheValuator results. We'll run Cohort Diagnostics on the updated sensitive definition, and we'll attempt to make a forum post so that we can give it to RCF for peer review. Via email, we will continue the discussion of just a summary of the evaluation, and then once the summary is finalized, we'll post it on the forums. We'll target for hopefully Monday, and then so that Tuesday, Asia can look at it. Is that okay?
That sounds great to me.
Perfect.
Let me ask you one quick question. Do you expect these people to be hospitalized? Where do people receive their diagnosis? In an
It's
outpatient?
both, but the majority will be outpatient.
The majority will be outpatient. Okay.
Think. All right. Any other key points before I stop the recording?
Yeah. Dr. McCauley wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say this is extremely helpful as always, and thank you all for your time and generosity here.
All right, I'm going to stop recording. Let's see.